Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Let's Play Every Day. I apologize for being a couple minutes late. 100% on me. Shocker, I know. Baby boomer and technology. With us this morning, the threesome. Heather Rule, freelance sports content creator, member of the Minnesota Twins social media team. Tyler Forness, who creates content for both the NFL and Major College Football for NBC and the USA Today, among others, and is about to transition much of his NFL focus into the NFL draft. And Darrell Thompson, former D1 and NFL football player who now leads Boulder Options, where they're improving young lives on a daily basis. If you saw the social media leading into this, you know we have a special guest joining us today because we're just over 2 weeks out until the world will come together for the Winter Olympics in Beijing, China. It's an event that's going to grab our attention for multiple reasons. And for a couple of weeks, and right in the center of it all, will be Phill Drobnick of Eveleth, Minnesota. Phill is the director of the men's and the mixed doubles position at USA Curling. And with that, we do welcome Phill Drobnick to Let's Play Every Day. Coach, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Phill, this was brought to my attention by the state senator, Carla Bigham, who's a regular contributor to It's Gorgomatic. And I asked if you could come on this show because I love the people that I get to talk to each and every day. And they're inquisitive as well. So what we'd like to do today, Phill, is just encourage you to participate in sort of the sports talkers of the day. And then we'll come back and we'll talk curling. Is that cool?
That's perfect. Yeah, sounds great.
Want to mention to the people that you are a local guy, a Minnesotan. You're one of us, as they like to say. Eveleth is the hometown?
Eveleth's hometown. That's where I'm from, is Eveleth. I actually just made the transition to move to Woodbury. So I'm now as we say up on the range, a 6-1 tour. So yes.
How are you navigating the roundabouts?
Yeah, we have a couple up there, so we're able to do it. But no, I'm excited. I really love being down here, closer to all the action with the sports, and with our offices moving to the training house, right by the training house into Vikings Lake there, where it's really exciting to be down here.
And is that all the result of the spinoff of the gold medal in 2018 and the kind of the boom of curling interest in Minnesota, the move?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's we want it to be more central. All of our athletes are training here in Minnesota, so it made more sense for our offices to be in Minnesota and for us to have a presence here in the Twin Cities. And we've started a partnership with the Vikings there at Vikings Lake, and they've been just so accommodating and have been great to work with. So we're excited about it.
Well, speaking of partnerships, I want to mention that Let's Play Every Day is sponsored by Northern Lids. You can check them out at northernlids.com. Northern Lids, simply the finest hats that money can buy. Phill, I want you to get hip to the old Northern Lids because really good stuff coming out of their shop. And we're going to start by talking about the sports talkers of the day. Our friend C. Willie Miles, who's a regular contributor, sat here the other day and said the Timberwolves will win both games back-to-back. Heather, I think you were there. He guaranteed the win. I was going to kind of throw some at Willie today, and I'm not going to because I don't think he ever figured on Ant getting tossed from that game last night. And I think if we've learned anything about the Timberwolves the last couple of days, if not the last month, is that when all three of those guys, the big three, are going, they're capable of beating anybody. But if you take any one of those guys out of the mix, it's going to be difficult. Anybody?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I didn't see a ton of the game last night, but the bits and pieces I was putting together, like, see, really talked the last show about how much he's knows about different sports and games just from watching Twitter, and that was kind of where I was getting a lot of the Timberwolves stuff last night, just seeing people talking, so I could kind of get a sense of how it was going because I was tuning into some of the tweets around in the third quarter when things kind of went amiss. And got thrown out. Cat gets this technical. And just all I was seeing is, they complained so much about the officiating. And then I went back and I saw the clip of when Ant got tossed. And I think one of the commentators said that, they're complaining too much, like right away. I mean, it didn't look like a lot when Ant got tossed, but, it must have been a buildup from what I was gathering because he's like, they're complaining too much. And for me, that's always one of the frustrating things about watching basketball it is such a big part of the game. Like, how many times do you go through a game and if you're one of the main players on the floor and you don't get any fouls? I mean, you're gonna get fouled. You're gonna be the beneficiary of a foul. You're gonna get fouled. Like, I don't know, because I do agree that they especially Cat sometimes complains a lot, and I think so that was frustrating. I think Finch after the game was talking about, even the second quarter, he thought his team didn't play that well. He thought the shooting wasn't that great and kind of got away from it at that point. So, but seeing what, they had a good lead in the first quarter and then it just kind of let it go the way they did and not pull out the win was pretty disappointing.
They had some injuries too. I mean, I think
Beverly.
Patrick Beverly, when he got injured, I think that hurts him. And then I think the like complaining is so common, like in all sports, especially for if you feel like you're that superstar person, you're just you always get that little extra edge. And I think it's part of the maturity to learn that you're just not going to get calls. Everyone out there has been, everything, the main guy from probably, sixth grade all the way through their, through college, if they went to college. So it's just part of the maturity of the game of realizing. Even Big Cat last night, he was like, hey, you know what, we actually got to calm down. He's like, oh, Cat is telling people to calm down. So that's hopefully it's a step in the right direction and some growth and maturity, and that's what the team needs, because you aren't going to get all the calls like Heather said.
Phil, do you get an opportunity to because isn't curling pretty much you're self-policing yourselves, aren't you? Isn't it sort of a gentleman's agreement? And I use that term across both sexes, that you're agreeing what the scoring is.
Yeah, it is. It's the one great thing about our sport is that we don't have a lot of official interfering with our game, and our athletes don't have an opportunity to complain about officiating because they're pretty much we do police ourselves, and rarely do we get in too many predicaments that the officials are there actually to support the athletes. I would say it's similar to golf in that sense, right? With they've got officials and rules people that are there to when needed, but otherwise you're policing yourself.
Just want to mention that the Wolves did fall last night. Trae Young, Tyler, when Trae Young gets going, it's one of those things like a momentum in any sports. I mean, Trae Young's as good as anybody in the NBA, Steph Curry included. When he's on, it's difficult to switch it off.
The thing with Trae Young is he's kind of got that Steph Curry mentality. He's when you watch him, it just feels special. Two, it looks like he shouldn't be on a basketball court because of how small he is, and he's just electric on the court, and he's got that special aura, and we're going to be able to enjoy watching him for the next 15 years, and it's just going to be fun. Sometimes you just can't beat a guy like that, and obviously not having Ant in the game really hurt. I saw Phil Mackey from Score North talking about how Cat, like when adversity hits, Cat's really not the guy to kind of lift you up. And I know Darrell mentioned that he was kind of telling everybody to calm down about the fouls and stuff, which is a really good sign. But when you have a guy like Cat, who's the centerpiece of your franchise, and he's acting more like a beta than an alpha as far as like being a leader, everybody leads differently, but you'd like to see a little bit more fire and passion out of him. And hopefully we get to see more of that. But sometimes you just got to chalk it up to, hey, we got our ass kicked by somebody who's really good. It happens. You just scrap it and move on.
I want to mention real quickly that the Gopher men did not play last night. That game against Penn State postponed. The women host Iowa tonight. COVID allowing that to happen. Before we get to the curling talk, I just want to mention the Vikings search goes on. Tyler, last week you sat in this chair and you thought at that time the Vikings would name a general manager by the end of this week. Do you still see them on that fast track, or are they still too deep in the process?
They're finishing up interviews today. I thought they would have been a little bit quicker about all these interviews, but they've been doing 2 to 3 a day since Monday. I think that they're going to end up hiring one by Monday-ish because they really got to get going on that head coaching search. I'm very curious if the Bucks and Bills lose, do they make calls about Brian Daboll and Byron Leftwich? Because they have not made those calls yet. And I think that's going to be something to really watch. But the one head coach that I really want is Raheem Morris, the Rams defensive coordinator. So I really hope the Rams lose because he's my guy. Not only is he a former head coach, he got the Bucs job after they fired John Gruden at 33 years old. They basically bankrupted the team. They were in 2010 when they were 10-6. They were spending $30 million less than the second lowest team in the National Football League as far as salary cap dollars. He was kind of set up to fail, and well, he did. He is coached defense, and he's a really good defensive coordinator, but he also spent 3 or 4 years as an offensive coach for the Atlanta Falcons. So he's got experience on both sides of the ball. Players love him. They only brought him in for an interview because about 6 different high-ranking people, guys like Sean McVay, Dan Quinn, Kyle Shanahan, and even Jalen Ramsey posted a tweet about him. They all love him. And there's an article from The Athletic you can find on my Twitter timeline. Some of the stuff in there is just incredible. He's a leader. He's a great guy. He builds relationships. He has expertise on both sides of the ball. It feels like he's that true CEO type that the Vikings desperately need and should be able to help this team progress forward, which I think is the ultimate goal.
Darrell, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think Raheem would be a good candidate. I think Bieniemy, it does stink sometimes when you're having the success that some of the teams are having, the Bucks, the Kansas City Chiefs, and those pieces. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how the pieces fall. But I wouldn't be surprised to see someone named here pretty soon too, because they do need to kind of get things going.
Phill, I've given everybody the opportunity to appear on the show, kind of the reaction to the Vikings making the changes that they did. I know you're a Minnesotan, you're a lifelong sports fan. Surprised that they removed both coach and general manager over it by this point? What do you think?
No, I think it was a great move by the organization. I really do, and I think it's just time to reformat that. I actually, once they made the move, I was thinking, since my office was there, that similar to college football or in college sports where you can walk on, I was going to see if I could get a walk on interview for the head coaching job. But
how did that work out?
I'm not sure. I didn't seem to have much access there. So, but yeah,
they should take a look at you.
You've got to win.
Yeah, I've got a winner right here, Phill.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see which direction they go. Obviously, there's a lot of key openings across the NFL, and I'll be interested to see even the rumors of obviously Jim Harbaugh, to see if he'll come back to the NFL. And yeah, I mean it's always an exciting time for coaches this time of year in the NFL, and the Giants' job is intriguing to see who ends up there. That organization has been just a wreck the last 5 years, right? So
yeah. Well, I'm going to open it up now to everybody, and we want to take advantage of the last 15 minutes or so that you have with us, Phill. And we do appreciate you doing this. You're leaving Sunday for Beijing. I just want to ask, during the whole course of everything that we've seen with the pandemic and knowing you're going to a communist country and all these different things, did you ever have any hesitation at all about wanting to go back and participate in another Olympics?
The Olympics are the pinnacle, for I say amateur sports, but for sports like ours, and I think that anytime you have that opportunity, that the State Department is there supporting the U.S. Olympic Committee, and that they're doing everything they can to keep us safe. So no, no matter where it was, obviously we've went to Russia. And Beijing held the games in 2008, and I have all the confidence that once we get there and we get into our closed loop bubble, that we're going to be safe and secure, and that Beijing will do a great job hosting the Olympics.
Phill, I got a question. I was just kind of reading your bio, and I said you've had a tremendous amount of success, and I think about you and Hugh McCutcheon, and there's a different way of approaching. Can you just your approach to curling? I mean, the success you've had, from really your entire career, but especially from 2010, to moving forward. Is there something different? Is there because I do think people could learn from someone like you, someone like Hugh McCutcheon. So, I just feel like other sports can teach other sports sometimes. Is there something different or a different way you look at things that might help us football heads get out of the just trying to find a hotshot quarterback and one receiver?
Yeah, no, it's certainly our game. Obviously we have a smaller group of athletes. We've got 4 on a team, but we always have that hotshot who's traditionally your skip, and then we've got our best player who's traditionally your vice skip, and then you've got your workhorses who are your front end players or your sweepers and things like that. But the thing I found the most success when I started coaching, and I learned pretty early, is that I need to adapt to all my players and be able to figure out what it is I can do to get the most out of each player and to get them to be at their best, at times where maybe they're challenged and maybe where they're struggling. So I've said for a long time, and I've worked with a lot of coaches that are coming into curling, and said that your number one quality is adaptability. you have to be able to change the way we do things, depending on who we're talking to, depending on what the score is, depending on what the situation is. And the one thing that we can bring is consistency as coaches. Be able to be that cool, calm, and collected person when maybe things aren't going well, and make sure that we stick to our team systems. The one thing we prided ourselves at the Olympic Games in 2018 on was that we had the best systems set up, we felt, in the world to be able to go there and succeed. We had between our sports psychologist, Dr. Carlin Anderson, who also works with all the University of Minnesota Gophers sports teams. Between her, myself, my assistant coach, and our trainer, we had team systems that were set up that allowed us to control when we went 2 and 4. We were still there, consistent soundboard. We knew the processes that we set up could allow them to win, and we believed in them, and we never lost faith. We never showed discouragement. And I think I tend to see that in a lot of sports when you watch coaches lose their cool, and coaches sometimes allow themselves to get caught up in the moment. And I think that's just a key part of being successful at coaching. And I found it for sure, in particular with curling, is that, when athletes emotions are high, we have to be there for them. We were playing it was our 6th game. We were 2 and 3, and we were playing Norway. And at the 5th end, John Schuster was really struggling that game and had just missed a shot. And, he was so upset and slammed his water bottle. Water bottle breaks all over his pants. I took him aside, grabbed him, got him to the locker room, had to take off my pants, give them to him because we're in a uniform, and just tell him, come on, let's just go out and play. So we were able to navigate distractions throughout the games, and we were able to do things like that. And I think that, that could be a point where a coach loses their cool, and it's like, you're in the public, you're on camera, and you just, and I think that it's just key for coaches to be able to stay in the moment and to stay calm and to get the best out of their athletes.
Phill, I was curious about the growth of the sport. I wanted to ask you about just either in both participation and popularity, because just as someone kind of pretty outside, casual, like watching the Olympics, I would say maybe the last 2 or 3 Olympics, I feel like I've heard more people talking about curling watching it. I feel like that was maybe because they, just the more opportunities they had to watch curling and the different sports at the Olympics. But, I'm curious with the participation, how has that fueled, maybe did more people who are watching it want to go try it out then, or just what have you seen with the growth of the sport the past few years or so, or was there a certain point you really saw it kind of take off?
Yeah, I think, in particular, since 2018, we have seen, even prior to that, we were starting to see some growth from it, but we have seen clubs popping up all over the country, which is just, fantastic. We've got clubs in Arizona and LA and Florida, and across the East Coast, and in Texas, just opened up new clubs. So I think that part of it, for us to be able to share the sport that we grew up loving, all of our athletes are so engaged in being a part of growing the sport. It's really a cool thing, and it's a unique thing to I think sports, because we are a smaller sport. So I'm just to be able to see curling when I started curling back in the 80s. It was really Minnesota, Wisconsin, your Midwest is where your athletes were coming from. Now our top athletes are coming from Seattle, they're coming from Boston, New York, and they're moving into the Twin Cities. And I think that's a really cool thing about having the headquarters here in the Twin Cities, is we've got athletes from all over the country at young ages that are moving here to go to college, to have access to all of our all the things that we have to offer for them, from utilizing the training house to utilizing all of our staff and strength training. And it's been a cool transition.
I kind of want to expand on that, Phill, because I think Heather said kind of about growing the game. And you said it yourself that your athletes are really dedicated to helping get people more involved. When I was younger, I always thought curling would be kind of fun, because it was something that I felt like I could do as somebody who's, a little uncoordinated because it doesn't take like throwing a football. Like you can learn that kind of skill. How are you trying to make the game more reachable for the younger generation, not only just kind of popping up like training facilities and stuff, but for somebody who just watches the games, be like, hey, I want to go do that. You know, how much easier is it for those kids to be able to take advantage of those opportunities?
You know, it's really USA Curling's been working on getting those clubs popping up in a lot of different areas. So the more opportunities we have to have clubs popping up in different areas, then we can get brooms in hands of kids, in particular, you know, younger kids that can give it a try and give it an opportunity. You know, we're doing outreach. We've got some staff that are doing outreach to areas within communities that haven't had that access, and, you know, partnering with arenas, because you don't necessarily have to have dedicated ice to have curling. We have a lot of arena curling, which is held on hockey ice, and you can easily transition hockey ice into curling ice. It's not as quality as if you had a dedicated facility, but really what we're finding is we just want to get brooms in kids' hands and get them the opportunity to try the sport. And you know, once they do, we're seeing that they're really liking it and they're enjoying it, and they're seeing it that it's something that you can do with your friends. It's something that you can do lifelong, and I think that's one of the unique things. You know, bobsledding and you know, luge, those are things that not the everyday person can jump in and do, but curling is something that the everyday person can jump in and do, and join a league and just enjoy time with family and friends on it.
No, I would argue that it is not as easy as it appears. I've been to some events, and I know alcohol tends to be involved a little bit with curling. It's a little bit like golf. You can kind of be social, right, but I think there's balance, there's finesse, there's a lot more to it than, you know, when you watch on TV. And I grew up in Rochester, and there's just tons of ice around there, and I watched curling as a kid at the rec center, because it was like kind of, we'd wait and watch as we were getting picked up from doing other sports. And I tried it a couple times as a kid, and you know, I've done it a tiny bit as an adult, and I think it's fun. I'm glad that it's growing, but it is absolutely takes practice, training, and it certainly takes a pretty fair amount of athletic ability too. So I might tip my cap to anyone that's is curling.
It was fun to see Jared Allen, you know, right after the 2018 games, really put, you know, him and Bulger and a couple of the other guys really, you know, they put that team together, and they were going to try to train, and they wanted to be the Olympic team in 2022. And, you know, they found out pretty quick how challenging it is. Like, I mean, anyone, the cool part is anyone can pick it up and, you know, get started and try to do it. But to go from A to Z it's impossible. These athletes are so good at what they do. And, you know, you can have access. So you know, Jared Allen had the opportunity to play against Schuster, and lost, and has played in a couple of our competitive events. But, you know, I think it was great for him to be able to do that and just show everybody how challenging it really is to become really good, really fast.
You mentioned John Schuster, and here's a guy who is another Minnesotan who had this spectacular series of failures to where the term shoestering became synonymous with blowing up in a big moment. He's this close to doing it again in 18, wins the gold medal. So unlikely. If you wrote it in a movie script, you wouldn't believe it because it just seems too cliche, but he actually does it. My question, where I'm going with this, is how has this affected him 4 years down the road? And that team is, as much as 3 of the 4 are intact, I believe. So what's their mental state going back? How much more confident are they versus where they would have been 4 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, John has always been a fantastic player, and John has always been, you know, he is a mastermind when it comes to the strategic side of the game. He is definitely one of the best skips in the world and knows how to navigate the ice and call a game to get the best out of his team. You know, he had some things that didn't go correct in 2010, and you know, I was a part of that. And you know, I, as much as the team and as much as me, like, I wasn't in a position in 2010. I was a young coach, and you know, wasn't able to support or help guide him through that. And in 2014, the same woes. But you know, in 2018, you know, it was really on to John to believe in himself. He really put a lot of work in on the mental side of the game with our sports psychologist, and he made himself better. And John, all of a sudden, figured out how to go and play in the moment, and he was fantastic that last half of the Olympics in 2018. And even since then, John has really become into just a seasoned player. And I've heard him talk in interviews, and he's just has a cool and calmness about him going into this next Olympics. He's got his medal, his gold medal that he was working at. He's also got the bronze from 2006. And this team is going in, and they're still not favorites. We're still going in as underdogs, but they're going in with confidence. And they played at the World Championships in 2021, and they were third in the round robin, ended up losing the quarterfinals. But this team is good enough to go back and definitely challenge to get the gold. So I look to see a cool and calm John Schuster, someone who's really enjoying being in the moment, someone who's enjoying allowing his kids watch him. He talks about how important it is for his kids to watch him play and to see him enjoying the sport that he loves. So I'm excited to see John Schuster at this 2022 games.
Anybody got another one for the coach?
Well, not curling related, but I was curious about a couple of things I saw on your bio notes, Phill, that Tim included and sent to us. Playing in the state golf tournament as a 7th grader for you, and then also the note about your grandfather playing in the very first boys state high school hockey tournament, and then you getting that gold medal back. I cover a lot of prep sports, so those are two things that kind of interested me. I'm curious. I don't know if you have any cool stories you wanted to share about either of those experiences, but those both popped out to me.
Yeah, I can remember the state golf tournament in 1994 was as a 7th grader. I made the team, and we were in the regionals. We were 14 strokes back, and I was the 4 player, and coaches asking me, because back then coaches weren't able to walk with you, and this is 25 years ago, and they weren't able to really have any interaction with you a lot. And they asked how you doing, and I put up the sign of 3, and they're like, okay, what'd you shoot on the front 9? And I'm like, no, I'm 3 over for the day. And I walked up, knocked an 8-footer in for par, and shot 75, and we ended up the guy I was playing with ended up shooting 95. And they never had another score. So we ended up qualifying for the state tournament. I didn't really even understand the grasp of it, right? At 7th grade, you don't,
No.
You're just, here I am. Most guys are wearing a polo shirt and and dress pants, and I'm wearing a windsuit, I think. So, but it was a really cool experience to be able to do that. And, to step on the first tee, I think it really hit me on the first tee when I snap hooked it and left onto the next hole. But, it was something that I'll always remember. And, just to be able to be there as a 7th grader was a cool experience. And I think I was finished 60th or something like that. I had 86, 84 or somewhere in that range, but, wasn't able to get that 75 that I had in the regionals, but it was really fun. And yeah, as you talked about the medal from the 1945 state high school hockey tournament, and my grandpa's has always been a close was a role model for me, and I always looked up to him and spent a lot of time with him. He passed away in 2007, and since then, I've always sent a tweet out or done something in honor of so he basically went to every Minnesota State high school hockey tournament after that, and he always had the room that hosted all of the people from the Iron Range, hosted the families. Anyone who was anyone in hockey was always in Ron Drobnick's room. There was articles in the Star Trib and the Pioneer Press about him being the Ranger from winning the state, and he'd relive that first state championship. I don't know how many times I've heard that, but so anyways, I posted a tweet last year, and just in memory of them winning. And I think it was last year, would have been 81 years ago. And John Malaya from the Minnesota State High School League saw it, and he's like, and he reached out, and he shoots me a DM, gives me a call, and he says, hey, would you be interested? We have this medal from the gold medal from the 1945 games. And I said, tournament. And I said, when my grandpa passed away, we looked all over for it, and we couldn't find his. So we don't know. I did find the 3rd place one that he got in 46. So I had that. And I told him, I was like, I got the third place from 46, but I don't have the gold medal from 45. He's like, well, we'd like to give it to you. And I was like, oh my God, that is just, knowing just that I honor my grandpa and how cool and how proud he was of that moment, and just being able to do that. It was really a cool thing. And Tom Hauser did a nice little story on it. And yeah, it was really cool to be able to get the medal that his team earned. We don't know whose medal on the team. There's 11 guys. They've all passed away. But just to have one of those and to know that, and I've told them, guys, I'm going to put it up. I've got a bunch of different pictures of the team. I've got like match boxes that had the team picture on it. I've got a bunch of cool things from that state tournament, from that era and from that team. So I'm going to put it all together in a nice display case. And, maybe when it's 85 or the 90 reunion, we can just set it up at the Excel and, allow people to be able to see it. So.
Awesome.
Nice.
Very cool.
When do you take off, Phill?
So we actually we leave for LA on Sunday, but Sunday, but then Thursday is when we all will take the charter over. So it'll be a bunch of the athletes, staff, coaches, USOPC staff that will be on that. I think I heard there'll be about 225 people on the charter over to Beijing. So we'll go right from LAX to Beijing. We'll go in not through the airport, which keeps our athletes safe, because as you know, with the COVID guidelines that they have, if anyone contracts COVID from now until we get to the games, they're out. So the unique thing about this season is we've had to prepare. I've got a backup athlete for both Chris and Vicky on our mixed doubles side. We've got 4 backup athletes on the men's side and 4 backup athletes on the women's side, because people can do everything right, and with Omicron, you contract it, and all of a sudden, they lose their opportunity to go to the games, which would just be heartbreaking for any athlete. And, it's almost assured that it's going to happen to someone, right? I mean, the odds are with this many athletes going and this many coaches that it does. But, I guess we've made it on our staff. We've even said that I just hope it happens to one of us. If it's going to happen, I hope it happens to one of us versus one of the athletes, because once they get there, they've worked so hard for the last 4 years and tried to navigate COVID and had to adjust the way they train and had to adjust the way they play. And it would we're just trying to do everything we can to get them there safely.
We're certainly hoping that it does happen for you. We thank you for making yourself available to join us and for giving us a little bit of your story. And we wish you nothing but the best. Well,
thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Nice chatting with all of you. And, hopefully we'll be, no matter what, we'll make everybody proud, and hopefully we'll be bringing back some hardware to celebrate back here in the U.S.
Thanks,
We'll
Phill.
be watching for
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Darrell. Thank you for watching today. Again, all this brought to us by Northern Lids, northernlids.com, finest hats that money can buy. And that'll do it for today. We're going to come back one more time tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit of the hopefully about the women's basketball game tonight versus Iowa. We've got the Minnesota Wild playing back-to-back. It is hockey day, Minnesota on Saturday. And, of course, there's some football to talk about, I think, happening this weekend as well while we still have it. So big thanks to Phill Drobnick. Best of luck to you and Team Schuster as you guys head off, and all the athletes heading off to the Olympic Games. Thank you for joining us today. This is Let's Play Every Day. We encourage you, whether it's the Olympic or whatever you're participating in, get off the sidelines and get in the game and